Ms. Bonjean, you may question the witness. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Jane. Good morning. My name is Jennifer, and I represent Mr. Kelly. Excuse me? If I understand your testimony correctly, you had a 12-year relationship with Robert. Is that right? Yes. And I think you testified yesterday that this relationship commenced sexual relationship when you were around 14 or around the time in 1998-ish. Is that right? Correct. And then ultimately, you left the relationship, I think in 2010. Does that sound about right? Sounds about right. Okay. And that means you were about 26 years old, if my math is correct, give or take. Yes. And you said that you left, you moved into an apartment, I think in University Park. Is that correct? Correct. And that he helped you get set up there with rent, paying for the rent and getting you an apartment there. Is that correct? Correct. And I think you also said that he made sure that you had transportation. I think you mentioned a Denali or something like that. Yes. And that was like a Denali. That wasn't brand new. That was something that was used, right? Correct. Okay. And you testified in 2002 before the grand jury in Cook County when you were 17 years old, right? Yes. And you understand that at 17 years old in the state of Illinois, you're considered an adult? Correct. All right. And you were still in a relationship with Robert at that time, correct? Yes. And by that point, the relationship was a legal relationship because you were legal age. You were of legal age in terms of consenting, right? Objection, Your Honor, from Ms. Appleton. Excuse me. Objection, Your Honor. Calls for a legal conclusion that the witness may not be aware of. Were? Well, overruled. Go ahead, Ms. Bonjean. You were aware that at 17, you were actually permitted to have a relationship with him in the eyes of the law in Illinois, right? I wasn't aware of that. Okay. I thought it was 18. Okay. And at the time, in 2008, when Robert was prosecuted for the charges related to child pornography, you also were still in a relationship with him. Is that right? Yes. And in fact, at that time, you were about 24 years old, right? Correct. And you were living with him, right? Yes. And his wife was living there too, right? Yes. And you claim that Robert, after this time, became abusive and controlling. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. But before that, the relationship wasn't abusive or controlling. It was after 2008, the prosecution and the subsequent acquittal, right? It got worse during that time. All right. And this behavior that you're talking about, that increased abuse that you're talking about, this didn't have anything to do with his, this didn't have anything to do with his 2008 acquittal, I assume, right? No. The case was over and done at that point, correct? Right? And you put it behind you at that point, correct? Yes. Robert put it behind him at that point, right? Yes. Objection, Your Honor. Speculation as to what Robert Kelly knew. Well, you were living with him, weren't you? Yes. You talked to him pretty regularly, given the fact that you lived with him and I guess his wife, right? Correct. In fact, you had a sexual relationship with him and his wife, right? That's what he wanted. You did that. Though, as an adult, right? Correct. And you understood that after 2008 acquittal from your conversation with Robin, that this is all in the past, right? Correct. Now, when you did move out, strike that. Let me ask you one more. Let me ask you one other thing. You testified that you weren't allowed to work when you were living with Robert. But that's not true, right? No, I was not allowed to work. Didn't you? Weren't you going to school at Moraine Community College, going to classes there? Correct. But I was not, but I was also not able to choose what I wanted to go to school for. Okay. But, and you were also working at the daycare center. Isn't that right? After the trial, yes, that is correct. Even before, you were working at the daycare center and going to classes, correct? No. All right. Well, do you remember being interviewed by the U.S. attorneys back, let's see, on May 3rd of 2019? I don't remember dates, but if you can refresh my memory, I'm not saying that it didn't happen. And at that point, you admitted that you were taking childhood courses at Moraine Valley College for approximately 1.5 to 2 years, right? Yes. So he didn't prevent you from taking classes at a community college, right? Well, during the trial, I was not able to go to school for what I wanted to study, is all I'm saying. Okay. We're talking about after the acquittal. Okay? That's the time frame I like to focus on. Yes, yes. After that, I was able to, that is correct. Right. And he paid for that, right? Yes. Now, after you moved out and you maintained you maintained a very tight relationship with Robbie, didn't you? Yes. Despite how terribly abusive it was, according to you, you remained close to him, correct? He wasn't like that all the time. Uh-huh. Oh, in fact, your whole family was very close to him. Yes. even even after you broke up because of this alleged abusive relationship, right? Yes. Indeed. Indeed. Your dad worked pretty consistently with Robert between 1998 and 2011. Isn't that correct? Yes. He worked with Robert before the sex tape scandal came and after it was all over. Am I correct? Yes. And even after you left Robert, he worked with your dad, right? Yes. In fact, your father was a guitarist. And as I understand it, is that correct? Yes. And as I understand it, a very talented guitarist. You agree with that, wouldn't you? I assume. Correct. He worked with people other than R.Kelly. Am I correct? Yes. And in fact, that album that you identified on the wall of Robert's studio that had all those platinum, and I think it was called R or Reality. Is that what it's called? I'm not exactly sure. Okay. Well, you identified it. Now, should we put the picture up? Or do you know which one I'm talking about? I know which one you are referencing. Yes. Yes. And your dad worked on that album, didn't he? Yeah. In fact, that's the album for which R. Kelly received a Grammy, right? Yes. That's the album that has the song I Believe I Can Fly, right? Yes. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Wake up, girl. Get it focused. And that is the album your father worked on in 1997, 98, before there was a sex tape scandal, correct? Yes. Daddy! Daddy! Your father worked on a #1 album with Mr. Kelly, correct? Yes. And he worked with other artists, right? Correct. Correct. And this was all before the sex tape that became public in 2002 was released. Am I right? Yes. Get her, Jennifer! Get her, Jennifer! Sit your ass down, lady. And it was your aunt who released that tape. I'm sorry. It was your aunt that released that tape to Jim Deroganis, right? To my understanding, yes. If you don't know, her aunt is Sparkle, y'all. It was your aunt that released that tape. To my understanding, yes. Sparkle? Correct. Is her real name Stephanie Edwards? Yes. Now, your father worked on the Grammy-nominated album Love Letter in 2011, right? Yes. Jennifer, would you be easy on her? Shut up. Now, your father worked on the Grammy-nominated album Love Letter 2011, right? Yes. And that was after you and Mr. Kelly were completely over romantically, right? Yes. And after you and Robert broke up, you cared about him. And he cared about you. Right? Yes. Even after you broke up, you sometimes came back together. And you had intimate times together. Is that fair, Jane? Yes. Even after you broke up, you sometimes came to big game getting back together. And you had intimate times together. Is that fair? Yes. And he helped you out from time to time with finances and things you needed, right? Isn't that correct? Correct. For instance, you testified in 2014. In 2015, Robin helped you with your rent payments, right? Yes. I think it looked like your rent was what? 1,100? Yeah, about 1,100. Does that sound right? During that time period? Yes. And Robert wasn't writing checks to you. He would delegate that to someone else, right? Yes, correct. Objection, Your Honor. That's speculation as to what Mr. Kelly was doing. Well, I can clarify. What was he doing? I don't see how that's speculating. Overruled. Thank you, Your Honor. You would receive checks, not directly from Robert, but from somebody that worked for Robert, right? Yes. And that sometimes you would receive wire transfers from somebody that would initiate those wires, right? Yes. And having spent 12 years plus a whole friendship afterwards with Robert. You're aware that he wasn't the person that would manage his finances personally, right? Correct. He had managers who did that, correct? Yes. He wasn't someone that intimately involved in the business side of things. He was an artist, right? Yes. He also struggled with things like math and reading and writing and all those things, right? Yes. So he delegated those activities to people like Mr. David, correct? Yes. And then there were other managers as well. Do you Were you familiar with some of Robert's other managers? Not that I could think of. Okay. And after you broke up, you would continue to go to his concerts, right? Yes. Your family would go to his concerts too, right? Yes. Your brother, I understand, is also a musician. Is that correct? Correct. And he would attend events that Robert would invite you to. Correct? Yes. And after you in 2008, after he was acquitted, this relationship that you had with Robert, it wasn't centered at all around the scandal and the 2008 acquittal, was it? No. In fact, that was a subject matter that you and Mr. Kelly did not want to talk about, correct? No. You did? No. Excuse me. Now I want to show you, well, you know what? Strike that. I'm sorry. In September of 2008, this would have been, thank you. Let me back up a second. You're familiar with the docuseries Surviving R.Kelly, right? Correct. And you're aware that it was premiered in like January of 2019, right? Yes. Because your life kind of changed when that came out, right? Yes. But before that, late 2018, you were communicating regularly with Robin via text and sometimes on the phone, right? Yes. I'm going to mark this as, hold on one second. Okay. I'm going to have you look at the screen. Okay. And because I don't want to say something publicly, we're going to mark this as defendants 100 for identification purposes. Okay? And can you pull out the bottom there? Excuse me, there's the judge, Ms. Judge. Excuse me, if I may, just for clarification, if we could label your exhibits defendant Kelly so we can separate them? Sure. That would be appreciated. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Ms. Bonjean continues. Do you see the screen? Yes. If you can look at the bottom there, not the blue part, but right below it, I don't want to put, there's nothing on my screen. I don't want to put it publicly on record. But do you recognize your phone number there at the bottom or your old phone number there at the bottom? Yes. Okay. And do you recognize Mr. Kelly's phone number right above it? The one that begins with the 6. I don't remember the number, but okay. It looks familiar. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to have you scroll through that. Go to the next page and take a look. And go ahead and read it to yourself. And then it's actually not legible. Okay, how about that? Okay, read it to yourself. And then can you tell me if you recognize it? Go to the next page. Keep going. Do you remember these exchanges? Yes. And they were exchanges with Mr. Kelly, correct? Yes. Okay. And do you appear to be, and do they appear to be your communications with Mr. Kelly during this time period, right before the release of Surviving R. Kelly? Yes. Judge, I would like to offer them into evidence not for the truth of the matter asserted, but for the respect of the state of mind. Any objections? None? Okay, they admit it. You may publish it. Thank you, Your Honor. The government objects to publishing. It was a witness telephone number on it, and it is not redacted. Oh, okay. We'll redact it. I understand it's not a working number, is it? No, it's not a working number, but we'll still redact it. It can still be used to identify, even though it's not working, Your Honor. That's fine. We'll redact it. Okay, redacted. Other than that, you may publish. It's not, that's not the one. That's not what. While we're redacting, Your Honor, I'll keep asking some questions, okay? Okay. Let's go to the next page. It has been redacted. So, should I publish it? I will move to publish. I think the judge said okay. No, it's not redacted yet. Yes, it can be published. It's on the next multiple pages though. I understand I'm going to do it as we go. So we'll go to the next page. It is redacted. What are you referencing? Why don't you proceed with the rest of them while they're being redacted, and then you can show them all? That's not her phone number that you're pointing to. That's not her number. Then it's not relevant. I have to go to the next page. So are we publishing this page that is not her number? Do you see the bottom part? It had their numbers. We just redacted her number. It has Mr. Kelly number and then it has her number. We redacted it. So the messages that she does not identify as being hers shouldn't be appearing on the screen. That's not true. I'm going to the next page. Wait. Is there an objection on the floor? If so, state the basis for the objection. The objection is relevance. The defense counsel has just indicated that there's numbers on here, telephone numbers that are neither James or Mr. Kelly. So those messages should not be there. We understand that there's numbers that are the messages between them. The numbers are redacted. Okay. I was under the impression that she identified these messages and that there's a phone number or there has long not been used. So I don't see what the problem is. And Jennifer says, and we just redacted them. They're just looking at a portion of the document that the half, we had to look at the bottom or half of the page. So we've now moved on to the next page. Okay? Jane, you ready? Okay. Jennifer's continuing. These are messages to Mr. Kelly, right? Correct. And the date on that is September 26, 2018, correct? Yes. And you send him a message saying, I'm next to you, laugh out loud. And then you said, let's share a toast for my 34th glow day, right? Correct. What is a glow day? It was my birthday. So you wanted to celebrate your birthday with him September of 2018, right? We were in the same party. Okay. Well, you send him a link to where you were going to be hosting your birthday, right? That sounds right. Okay. Then you had to change the location of your birthday, right? I don't remember that, but that could be true. You said, also tonight I had to change the location. Joy District at 8 o'clock, right? Yes. And did you, in fact, have a birthday celebration there at 8 o'clock? Yes. Did he attend? I don't I don't think so. No. He didn't respond to your message. Actually, right? At least these messages, correct? That could be true. That's not what I see on the screen. So, yeah. All right. Are we able to go to the next page? And honestly, Judge, this isn't even her number. She changed her number since. So I should just so I'm just going to keep going. Your Honor, the government still objects as it can be used to identify her, which we noted earlier. Yes, keep going. I don't see any problem if the number isn't in, has no connection with her anymore, even if it exists. So go ahead. Okay. Go to the next one, Ashley, please. Can I do it non-redacted? Yes. Go to the next page. Then you sent him a text saying, nope. No, excuse me. Then you sent him a text saying, hope to see you. And then he didn't respond. And on October 15, 2018, you said, my mom lost her mother. Check on her when you get a moment, please. Right? Yes. Because Mr. Kelly was close to your mother, right? Yes. Even at this point, isn't it fair? That's correct, right? Yes. And he responded a little bit later and he said, wow, I just got this. Sorry to hear that. Send me her number, please. Which you did, right? Yes. And he said, I'm okay. How are you doing? And you said, my heart is heavy, but it will get better with time, right? Correct. Next page. Then you asked him, what have you been up to? And he said, I understand you're talking to the mirror right now, but you're right. It will all get better if you really believe that like I do. And you responded, I can only imagine. I think about you and I pray for you often. And he responded, and it's working. I appreciate it. And you said, I feel it. So I know you do. And then you said, let me know when we can catch up. Go to the next page. And you said, okay. And he said, okay, baby, just stay on my radar. It's all good. And you said, will do. And then you reached out to him on December 30th of 2018. Where you at? What does that WYA? What does that mean? Where you at? And he didn't respond, right? No. And then you said, hey, go to the next page. Happy New Year, Shorty. Shorty is one of your nicknames, right? Yes. And you said, hey, Happy New Year. Peace, loving, and blessings. You go into Oceans? What is Oceans? It's a strip club. And he said, you said a strip club? Yes. And what was being celebrated there, if you remember? I don't remember, but I'm sure he was like hosting or something like that. He was hosting. I said I believe he was hosting or something like that. Okay. Or I don't know if it was my birthday. I don't know exactly. Well, except that he responded, no, we at the studio. You all can pull up if you want, right? Right. So he wasn't hosting anything at no strip club, right? Apparently not. No. Okay. But you just assume he was because it's a strip club. No. It was obviously something that may have happened in the media or on social media that would have made me think that he was going to be there for some reason, because that's not a random question I would ask him. Except you have friends in common. You might think that he might be going to this because you have friends in common who were going, right? No. Okay. So you just assume he was going to Oceans, even though he says, no, we all going to the studio. You can pull up if you want, right? Correct. And you said, cool, thanks. I'll text you. And then the next page, you said, hey. And then he actually responded, hey, you. And you said again, this is January 3rd of 2019. That was around the time, actually, I think it's the exact date the docuseries premiered. Does that sound right? Yes. Oh, although I guess the fallout from it wasn't entirely aware. Although I guess the fallout from it wasn't entirely aware. Until a little bit later, correct? I don't know what you mean by that. Can you rephrase that question? Did you watch it on January 3rd, 2019? No. All right. So you said, what's up with you? You feel like stopping by Pressure Point? Pressure Point's a studio. Correct. And then you said, or can me, Jay Blaze, and her girl, April, stop by your studio? Hey, so you've asked him multiple times to hang out, right? Or to come by the studio? Yes. And then he says, Wait, how is this girl doing all this communication with this dude? But he did all this abuse to her. She wanted to get away from him and all this shit. And you still fucking with him up to 2 years ago. Hanging out, texting, communicating. You like, y'all be killing me with this victim stuff. You 30-something years old still dealing with this man. Yo, this is crazy. You're a grown-ass woman. I understand when you was young, he may have it might have been child molestation or whatever, but you stayed with this man throughout your whole life. Like, you're not scared of this man. He ain't abused you. If you still hanging out, calling him, reaching out to him, hanging out with him, hanging out with your girlfriends with him, how are you scared of him? You're not scared of him. Yo, y'all killing me with this victim shit, yo. You ain't no victim. If you still hanging and chilling and like, or are you just glutton for punishment? Like, what is it? And then you said, so you asked him multiple times to hang out, right? Or come by the studio. Yes. And then he says, sorry, I just found this damn phone in the couch in the studio. Laugh out loud, but it's all good. Let me know the next time y'all going out. And depending on the stupid-ish, laugh out loud, I'll come with y'all. Right? Correct. And if you go to the next page and you said, who you telling? Pressure point, though, is a studio. I wasn't asking you to go out, laugh out loud, but that would be nice also. And he said, what be going on there? And you responded, I work there in the evening. It's Jay's husband's spot now. They had April, the mother of, I won't say the names, someone's child, and she's writing. Just thought it would be a nice vibe for you to pull up. Come today is really private. You wanted him to come hang out, right? Yes. That was just in January of 2019, right? Yes. And then you hit him again on January 3rd. What are you doing tonight? Do you see that on the top one? Yes. And he says studio session, but I'll be here drinking and chilling. And you say, okay, I'm going to come through. Come through means I'm going to stop by, right? Yeah, correct. And he said, hit me around 8:30 or 9. And then you text him later and said, are you there? You said, need you to respond right away, right? Correct. Hey, are you there? We're pulling up now. And then he didn't respond, right? Correct. And then later on, he said, what happened? And you said, I came. You never responded. And I kept calling your phone while I was outside. Do you remember that? Not exactly, but it sounds right. And then he said, oh my God, are you serious? Why not do everybody else does? Just come in. Why not do what everybody else does? Just come in. Laugh out loud. It is a party. I can't hear my phone. People grabbing on me, trying to take pictures. Your Honor, we're going to object to these. Counsel showed the witness a first few pages. The witness has not looked at any of these pages and identified that these are conversations that she actually recalls. So she has to do that first in order to lay the foundation for these to be admitted and published? I will ask her then, Judge. All right. You recognize, Your Honor, it's still published to the jury. Well, if it's published to the jury, it's there. But you can ask her if these are hers, I guess. Thank you, Your Honor. You recognize those as your text messages with Robert, right? Yes. Okay. 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 Do you want to scroll through the rest so you can? Do you want to scroll through the rest so she can recognize to the very end and then? I can't do it with the redactions. Okay. Do you have any reason to believe that these aren't your text messages with him, right? No. Okay. Let's keep going. And you said, I definitely wasn't trying to walk up to the door and have problems with everything going on. I get that. But wait, you taking pictures now? And then you said, just let me know when you're free. And then he says, no, I say they were trying to take pictures, but depending on who it is, I do take pictures here and there. Why you say that? And you responded, I'm just laughing because I know you don't usually do that. So it was cool. And he responded, well, here's something even funnier. I didn't take one picture with nobody last night. There were a lot of moonwolfers in there. And you said, please call me and explain what a moonwolfer is. Laugh out loud. Okay, that was on January 5th, 2019. Do you see that? This isn't really legible up here. So if you want to zoom in again, sure. That would be helpful. Can you zoom in for the first half of that, Ash? Okay, do you see that? Yes. Okay. And then you see this message, which is, thank you guys for everything. I'm tired now. That was January 6, 2019, right? Yes. And that was after Surviving R.Kelly series came out, and he was pretty upset, right? Yes. And then you responded with, wait, what? Are you okay? I'm super worried about you, right? Yes. And you were worried about him, right? And you were worried about him, right? Yes. And you were, are you able to go to the next page? Keep going. And then you hit him with a lot of messages here where you said, where are you? Don't do this. Respond to me. And you said, I long you don't let the devil win. But then you corrected yourself, which was, I love you. Don't let the devil win. Right? Correct. And then you were like, Rob, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. And then the last page of this particular exchange or series of exchange is, and you said, trust me, I know firsthand how you feel. You have my prayers. You need to come to the studio. It is super safe and private. I have something you should come remix. And he responded, sorry? Okay. Major breakdown. But now I know I'm on a major buildup. And you said, yeah, I had one too. Do you remember that? Yes. Okay. And that kind of relates to the series coming out, which upset you too, right? Correct. Because you started getting people hitting you up and harassing you, right? Yeah. Lisa Van Allen messaging you, right? Correct. You didn't want to be talking to her, did you? I didn't have no reason to. Now, Give me a second. And because all the attention you started getting from surviving R. Kelly, you actually changed your phone number, didn't you? Yes. And in your conversation with Robin, he wasn't trying to influence you to do anything. You guys were just commiserating that this was coming back up, right? Right. Okay. Now, I would like to look at, this is just 3 more pages of an exchange between, well, you take a look at it and put it just for her. They have to do it just for her. Okay. All right. Now, regard the first 3 blue bubbles. Okay. And look at it where it says 278. Do you see that? Do you recognize your phone number there? The phone number you changed to? Honestly, I don't. Highlight the number. I'm sorry. No, I can't see it, but I don't remember that as being my number. That's not the one that stands out. Okay. I'm not saying it wasn't. I just don't recognize it. Okay. Okay. And you do see the message there that says, this is, and you don't have to, don't say it loud, the name, but it is, this is Jane, my new number, right? Yes. Do you remember sending that message to Mr. Kelly on January 7th, 2019? Yes. All right. Go to the next page. If you could pull out Ashley so she can see it a little more. Blow it up. Do you see your messages to him? Yes. Do you recognize these messages? Yes. Do these messages appear fairly and accurately reflect your text messages to Mr. Kelly during this period of time? Yes. Okay. Go to the last page. So all of them. So we have all of them. And if you could pull it out so she can see it, stretch it out, Ashley. And for this page, does your answer stand that you remember these text messages? Yes. Okay. That's not your number anymore, is it, right? Correct. Okay, let's go back to the first page, Ashley. Make sure that you redact any reference to her real name there. Okay? Judge, this is a 3-page document. I'll move to admit it as Defendant Kelly 101. Any objections? It's submitted. No, Your Honor. You may publish. Okay. You hit him up on January 7, 2019. You said, this is Jane, my new number, right? Correct. Go to the next page, Ashley. And then you sent this message to him. The first one is, what are you doing? What are you doing now? Right? Yes. Happy Glow Day. Correct? Correct. Glow Day is birthday, right? Uh-huh. And it was his birthday. Yes. You asked him, what are you doing tonight? This was on January 11th, right? I think on January 9th. Right. But then you said, what are you doing tonight on January 11th, correct? I don't see that on my screen. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. And then on January 11th, you said, trying to reach, we need to talk. Very important, correct? Yes. He's not responding. Is that fair? Yes. And then you said, how is it that I'm testing you at such a critical time and you're not getting back to me? Right? Yes. And this is related to Surviving R.Kelly series, isn't it? Yes. And then you said, it's Jane. Call me on January 18th, right? Yes. And then you keep going on. And he said, damn, I didn't recognize this number. And you said, I've been calling and texting you. And he said, I'm just waking up. I'm not used to this new number, but I'm going to lock it in. And then on February 14th, Valentine's Day of 2019, you said, I need to speak to you ASAP, right? Correct. And then you also said, you need to call me right away or I'm making decisions on my own, right? Yes. And he didn't call you, did he? I believe we did have a phone conversation after that, if I can remember correctly. Okay. You didn't tell that to the U.S. attorney that when you met with him, did you? I'm not sure if they asked me that or not. You told the U.S. attorney that you hadn't had communication with him at this point, right? Right. Actually, and that you actually made false statements to the U.S. attorneys when you said that you were on a friendly, not so friendly basis, but you hadn't been in contact with him, right? I told them we were in contact. Let's see. I want to draw your attention. Do you remember speaking to the U.S. attorney on April 11, 2019? I'm not sure of the date, but I know that I did speak with them, yes. And do you remember telling the U.S. attorney on that date that your relationship with R. Kelly was friendly, but not friendly? That you contacted Kelly because it was his birthday and contacted him after the docuseries aired? And you described him as not sounding well and seemed stressed? That you contacted Kelly again after information circulated on the news but was not successful? You told him you weren't successful in contacting him. So again, the timeline and everything that you're asking me, I might not be completely accurate about it in that sense, but we did communicate about the documentary. So that's why I answered it that way. Okay. But you said that you believe that you had conversations after you told him, I'm going to do what I'm going to do if you don't get in contact with me, right? I just meant in reference to the documentary. I can't say that it was that particular conversation after the text messages. All right. On February 14th, when you were hitting him up to try to get in contact with him, that's because the Cook County State's Attorney Office was trying to reach you, right? Yes. And you didn't want to talk to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, correct? Correct. And that's because you had heard that Michael Avenatti. Do you know who Michael Avenatti is? I don't. Okay. You had heard that there was a tape that had been given to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, right? Yes. And that first person that called you was Robert, right? Yes, because we were a team, correct? In 2019, you were a team? Well, I'm saying in a reference to handling this situation, whether we were on good terms or bad terms, I felt comfortable enough to reach out to him because I was afraid. I didn't know how to handle myself in this situation. So, yes, I did. But he didn't contact you, right? No. You knew that Kim Fox had set up a hotline for anyone who had information about R.Kelly, right? No, I didn't know that. But on February 14th, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office came and you refused to speak to them, right? Yes. And just like in 2002, you didn't want to have anything to do with this, right? Correct. And you were getting lots of attention, right? Yes. And you were also getting offers and opportunities to, essentially appear in docuseries and other types of media broadcasts. Would you agree? Yes. And you went to Robert and you told him that if he paid you, you wouldn't cooperate with them, right? Yes. No, pardon me. That's not correct. You told him you were going to make a decision by yourself if he didn't get back to you, whether he was going to pay you. The decision that I was going to make would have been to cooperate with the authorities because I no longer wanted to carry his lies. Right. But you had an opportunity after opportunity to not carry his lies. And when there's an investigation going on, the first person you call is Robert, right? That's what I was used to. You're right. Yes. Right. I mean, and you didn't talk to the Cook County's attorney's office when they came knocking on your door, right? No. You called Robert because you wanted to work out a situation where he would pay you not to cooperate. That's not correct. Uh-huh. And then he was arrested by law enforcement on February 22nd, 2019. Do you remember that? Yes. Okay. You weren't talking to him at this point, right? Correct. And he made bail, right? Yes. And he didn't try to talk to you either, correct? No. He made no efforts to speak to you. Can we? Right? Right. You decided to cooperate at that point because not because you wanted to get something off your chest of all of a sudden, but because there were benefits involved in it, correct? No. I mean, you have a deal right now after this trial where you're going to go tell your story. Your brother was posting about that, right? No, that's not correct. Okay. You don't have any. You don't have any deals right now that is going to materialize after you testify here in court. Any that will enrich you. No. Objection, Your Honor. There's no foundation for any of these questions. Okay. Well, actually, Do you have, we'll come back to it. Your Honor, can you, well, if there's a foundation as the officer of the court, you tell me there's a good faith basis, you may do it. Otherwise, I'll sustain the objection. There is. Judge, let me, if you give me 1 second. Did you have your brother post on Instagram about how you were so brave and that you were going to be a spokesperson for Project Refine with the collaboration with Grey Goose Vodka? Yes. That's what I was talking about. Any other deals like that? So that's not a deal. That's for my nonprofit organization that I just started. It's a mentoring program. That's not for my profit. That's for my passion for what I'm doing in my personal life. It has nothing to do with a deal. Grey Goose didn't give me any deals, or I don't have anything to look forward with them after what took place the other day. Okay. But there's a collaboration with Grey Goose Vodka, right? There was, yes. And any other types of, I won't use the words deal. Any other type of opportunities you have after your testimony here today? No. Now, even though Robert had no communication with you after you hit him up and said, wait a minute, let me stop for a second. Girl, you just started this nonprofit all these years. Now this trial's going on. You just started a nonprofit, and Grey Goose is giving you a deal. And I've been in this mother effort industry for almost 30 years. I'm doing damn near 2 million views a month on YouTube. And Grey Goose hasn't contacted me to do a deal. And you get a deal with Grey Goose. And as big as my name is, you telling me I can't get a deal with Grey Goose, but you can get a Grey Goose with a nonprofit that you just started yesterday. Girl, bye. If you think Grey Goose ain't giving you a deal because you attached to this R.Kelly stuff, if you think we that stupid, girl, you must be crazy. Grey Goose, y'all giving deals to anybody? Call me, Grey Goose. Fuck out of here, yo. What? How's this girl got a Grey Goose deal? Or any one of y'all should have a Grey Goose deal. If she got one, any of y'all that slept with a celebrity, y'all should have a Grey Goose deal. This is ridiculous. Now, even though Robert had no communication with you after you hit him up and said you were going to make your own choice or something of that nature, you went and spoke with U.S. attorneys with a person by the name of Fred Crawford, right? Yes. And you call him your god brother, right? Yes. What's a god brother to you? Because R.Kelly's your godfather. Yo, oh, Jennifer's cutting her up. Yo, this go to show you, yo, she went to a family member that worked for the U.S. attorneys to go and tell on R. Kelly, dog, because the nigga wasn't going to give her no money for her to chill. Yo, this is so ill. Now, even though Robert, you had no communication with Robert, even though Robert had no communications with you after you hit him up and said you were going to make your own choice or something of that nature, you You went and spoke with U.S. attorneys with a person by the name of Fred Crawford, right? Yes. And you call him your god brother, right? Yes. What is a god brother to you? It's just a terminology that I use for how close he and I are. He's helped me out, how he's gave me work. Like he's just a really close friend to my family. So I consider him not a real brother, but a god brother. Okay. Is he older than you? About a year and a half, yeah. Okay. And on April 11th of 2019, you were interviewed by Assistant U.S. State's Attorney by the name of Angel Crow, correct? Correct. And you became pretty close with her, correct? I wouldn't say close. You were, I mean, you text back and forth with her from time to time, right? Yes. All right. And during that first interview, you refused to answer any questions about your interaction with R.Kelly, right? Yes. You even told the assistant state's attorney during that interview that you didn't know whether Kelly, well, you weren't sure whether Kelly had relationships with young girls, right? I don't remember the conversation you're speaking of, actually. If you had said that, according to you, that would be a lie, right? Correct. And you had told that lie to U.S. attorneys on April 11th, 2019, not because Robert told you to tell that lie, because you decided to tell that lie, right? Objection, Your Honor. That's a mistake, her testimony. She says she doesn't recall what she said on that day. All right, clarify. Well, I can prove it. I can prove it up. I can pull it up. Clarify her answer then. Sure. Shall I? Maybe we have, let me refresh your recollection first. Perhaps that will help. Okay. The April 11th, do you have it? And just show it to her. Okay. Do you see what appears to be the Department of Homeland Security report in front of you? Yes. Okay. Can you zoom in a little bit? Yeah, sure. I'll put out that portion and about the fifth paragraph down. First, pull out that for her. Okay. Can you see it closer now? Yes. Okay. And at that point, you said you weren't comfortable answering any questions. Can you repeat that? Do you remember telling the U.S. attorney that you were not comfortable answering any questions about interactions with Mr. Kelly, your sexual interactions with Mr. Kelly? Yes. And then you on the next page, about halfway down there, it says, I'm not going to use your initials. I'm just going to say Jane and go ahead. Do you see where it's highlighted there, that first sentence? Yes. Does that refresh your recollection about whether you told the U.S. attorneys you're not sure whether R. Kelly had relations with other young girls? Yes. Okay. And today you're saying you do know that he had relationship with other young girls, right? Yes. So when you told the U.S. attorneys that on April 11th, 2019, that wasn't true? That was a false statement, right? Yes. Okay. So even on April 11th, 2019, you were making false statements to the U.S. attorney's office, right? I didn't want to get other people involved. So yes, I did do that. The girls that I did know, I did say that. Right. You told false statements to the U.S. Attorney's Office, which in fact is a federal crime, right? Objection, Your Honor. As to what the witness may know in terms of legal consultations about official charges, overruled. She can give a general answer. And Mr. Kelly didn't tell you that. Wait, and Mr. Kelly didn't tell you to tell that lie. You told that lie, right? Yes. You can take that down. You had your own reasons for not wanting to be truthful with the authorities, right? At that time, yes. Not the other times. In fact, that was the first interview that you gave about anything related to Mr. Kelly since you spoke to, I guess, the police back in 2000, right? I don't remember exactly, but okay. And during this interview, the U.S. attorneys made it clear to you that and during this interview, the U.S. attorneys made it clear to you it kind of wasn't your choice, that if they subpoenaed you to testify before a federal grand jury, you were going to have to show up on a subpoena, right? Correct. All right. And then even in the interview you had, oh, by the way, during that interview, oh, by the way, during that interview, you refused to look at any video, right? Yes. In fact, until August 9th, like last week, you've never seen the video, right? Correct. So you have no idea what was shown at that criminal trial in 2008, right? No, only through those still images. You looked at some still images, and that's where you denied that it was you, right? Yes. Okay. Now, April 13th of 2019, you again met with the U.S. attorneys and you still did not want to talk. You were uncooperative, right? Can you repeat that for me? On April 13th of 2019, at the second interview, you still were unwilling to speak to the U.S. attorneys, correct? Yes. And speak with them about Mr. Kelly and yourself and all of that. That's what I'm talking about, right? Yes. And you again, and again, that had nothing to do with Mr. Kelly. That was all your decision, right? Yes. And on that day, you again refused to look at any videos of yourself discussing your relationship with Mr. Kelly, right? Right. And you weren't communicating with Robert at this time, right? And isn't it true that the U.S. Attorney's Office told you that you would be entitled to restitution if you help get Mr. Kelly convicted, right? Yes. And restitution is money, right? Yes. And you are seeking restitution or will seek restitution if he is convicted, right? I'm still undecided about that. No, that's not correct. You haven't decided whether you're going to seek restitution. No. But you know you have the right to seek restitution, correct? That is correct. And the U.S. attorney told you that you had the right to seek restitution even before you ended up giving and cooperating with them, right? That's incorrect. Objection, Your Honor. We need a sidebar of this. They gonna have a sidebar. Okay. Now, April 18th of 2019 is when you decided that you would cooperate with the investigation. Am I correct? Yes. Okay. So you testified yesterday that you just You were just so tired of keeping the secret and you needed to get it off your chest. But you took some time making that decision, didn't you? Yes. You told the government that you would not cooperate unless they could give you immunity. Am I right? I didn't tell them that, no. You asked for immunity. You asked for immunity, Dale, through counsel, right? Correct. And you asked for immunity for your parents too. Yes. Now, if your parents didn't know anything and they were innocent in all of this, why did you ask for immunity for them? Because with them not being truthful the first time, as far as what took place in 2008, I just wanted to make sure that they were protected with telling the truth and moving forward. And I want to go back. And they agreed to give you immunity and protect you and your parents as well, right?